Welcome everybody to In Your Head with Shannon Standiford. I am your host, Shannon Standiford, because again, this is my podcast. And with me today is the very lovely, very just amazing woman named Emily. She is from Nebraska. She may or may not have landed on the moon a time or two in her past life. So we don't know. I wasn't there. So, Emily, how are you today?
I'm okay. I'm hanging in there for the time being.
Yeah. So, first question, always out of the gate, is what was childhood like for you?
Um, Complicated. Uh, I grew up with a single mom. My dad was never in the picture. He was a drug addict and a narcissist and abusive, and so my parents got divorced when I was really young, and my mom, me and my brother were 15 months apart, and then my mom got remarried, and that marriage didn't work. Um, but I have three siblings. I am the only sibling that has CF. I was diagnosed at about 3.5, um, which is kind of uncommon. Usually it's diagnosed at birth, and that made for a difficult childhood. I spent, 90% of my time in and out of hospitals, doctor's appointments, taking medications, and it was trying to juggle regular life of, going to school and just being growing and trying to learn life, but also being sick played a huge role into everything. I was bullied throughout all of school because I was sick. I missed a lot of school, so I didn't have very many friends. And that affected me mentally in so many ways. Um, and it was hard because I always felt so different from everybody. I'd be inside doing treatments and taking medications, and I wasn't able to do everything that all the other kids could do. And at a young age, I didn't understand that. Um, and I think that by the time I was a teenager, I felt like I was just completely alone and I was my illness. I was not me. I was just the sick girl. Um, and that made things incredibly difficult. And my illness is progressive, so as time went on, I got sicker and sicker. Even though I did the best to take care of myself, and that was hard. And then my mom was a single mom, and she had four kids, and so I was doing my best to also help my mother with my siblings. She didn't put a lot of responsibility on me, but you kind of, I think when you're put in that situation, even if she wasn't putting that responsibility on me, I felt like it was my responsibility um, to make sure that, my siblings had what they needed and um, made sure that they knew that, they were loved and cared for. And I think it added a harder aspect because my mom had to spend a lot of time with me and make sure that I was getting to and from my doctors. And I had so many procedures and things like that where I really took attention from my siblings, and I felt really guilty about that. I still do. So I did my best to also make sure that they were okay all the time, um, which is just kind of the person I am. But in the end, it's something that I'm trying to work on because I focused so much, especially then, on trying to make sure everybody else was okay, that I became completely not okay. And that was my childhood was just crazy. I had so much going on all the time in every aspect of life, and I felt like I really never felt like I got to be a kid because I had to grow up and I had to learn to take care of myself and do things because if I didn't do those things, I quite literally would have died. And that was hard and scary. And my mom she was very upfront with me. She always has been about my illness, which some people disagreed with. Um, but I think that it's important when you're as sick as I am, even at a young age, that you understand the depth of your illness, because if it's not taken seriously, you will die. And a lot of people frowned upon her for telling me those kinds of things, but um, and even with her telling me those things, I went through a period of time where I didn't take my meds and I didn't do the things I was supposed to do because I didn't want to. Um, but it was just a constant battle of like trying to figure out how to like be a person outside of my illness and to stop taking care of other people and take care of myself.
So when your mom told you, like, let's say for like the first time about all this, and if you don't take care of you, you could die. Like when she told you that for the first time, that like, hey, this is super serious. If you don't do A, B, C, D, uh, you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna be here anymore. How old were you?
Um, I don't really necessarily remember like an age of when she was like really, I mean, even from the moment of my diagnosis, which was 3.5, she would explain to me like, hey, if you don't do these things and do this, you're going to get really sick. And I think over time that conversation evolved, and I would say she really got like really stern with me when I was probably 12 or 13, um, because things got really bad really quickly. Um, I stopped taking all of my medications. I would throw them away in the trash. I would skip treatments. I basically didn't do any of the things that I was supposed to do because I didn't want to do them. And I became, and this was before, I was being treated for any kind of depression or anxiety or even seeing a therapist. I was not seeing a therapist. Um, and I was done. I was so angry at everybody. And I think that's something that really hurt me because I wasn't, sad and crying all the time and, stuck in my bed. Like I wasn't perceived as depressed. Um, But something I've learned is that when I am not in a good mental space, I'm just angry. Um, and I did some really, really terrible things. I ran away from home several times because I didn't want to take my medications, and she was going to force me to do that. Um, I threatened at one point to go live with my dad, which was crazy because he was addicted to drugs and lived in a home that was not safe for any human. Um, and I said things purposely to hurt people because I was so angry all the time. And it really just got out of control. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to help me. And I wasn't open with her. I didn't let her know what was going on. Um, and it kind of blew up into this thing, and I had ran away, and um, I was home. They had come, found me after I had run away, and it turned into this huge, huge fight. And I was screaming at her that, I didn't want to be here anymore, that I was going to hurt myself and harm myself. Um, and I told her that I hadn't been taking my meds, and she, the next day, forced me into an emergency appointment with a therapist. I was so mad at her, so mad. And I didn't say a single thing to the therapist the entire time we were there. And she kept asking me if I was going to harm myself because I couldn't answer the question, um, or wouldn't answer the question, I guess, because my full intention was to go home and harm myself. Um, I was put into a psychiatric hospital for the first time. Um, I was there for a couple weeks. First couple days that I was there, I refused to see my mother, which like breaks my heart now because I absolutely love my mother and she has done everything that she possibly can being a single mom, and like she's come so far and she's done so great raising us. But I was so angry at the time that like I just wanted to hurt anybody in my path. Like I did not care. And that was, I think, when she really was like, you're not doing these things, and you are going to die. Um, and at first, I did the whole like, yeah, whatever, you're a liar. But then I could, I could feel that I was getting sicker. I couldn't breathe. I had no energy. Um, Things just started to really go downhill from there. And it's one of my biggest regrets because sometimes I wonder, like if I wouldn't have gone through that and I would have stayed taking care of myself, maybe I wouldn't have progressed as quickly as I have. But at the same time, there's no way to really know that. Um, but I was in the psychiatric hospital for a really long time, for a couple weeks, and I got discharged, and I went back a couple times, and um, there was a few times where I did try to take my life. Um, and but I would say when I was a teenager, when she was really like, you don't understand. Like, if you don't do these things, you don't take your medications, you don't do your treatments, like, you don't even have, if I spend a month not doing my treatments and taking my meds, I could die. So it's not a long time frame. It would happen very quickly. And a lot of people did not agree that she should be telling me those things and scaring me. But I think she did the right thing because it really made me realize, like, she's not kidding, and that there is a reason that I have to take these medications. Is it fair? No. Do I want to? No. But if I don't have a life. Um, and I mean, it's been a constant battle since everything. I finally was diagnosed with the depression and the anxiety, and I started medication, and I started going to therapy. And the first therapist I had was not. It just we didn't vibe, and it wasn't productive. Like our sessions were just not helpful to me. Um, but I would say since 13, things have been like early teenager things have just they're just a mess all the time. Um, but the reality of my disease is very intense.
So, speaking of, for those that don't know, what is going on like inside of your body right now? What is happening?
Well, I have multiple diagnoses. I actually just got a new diagnosis yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah, so I have cystic fibrosis. My main ones, um, cystic fibrosis, lupus, like Rosie. Um, I have diabetes, and then yesterday I got the official diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I know nothing about yet. So I'm kind of like in the limbo on that one. Um, but you kind of CF is basically, which is my like biggest issue is my CF, because uh, it affects my entire body. But basically, CF causes thick, sticky mucus to go throughout the entire body, and it attacks lungs, digestive tract, pancreas, liver. I mean, it can affect all of my organs, my sinuses. So I am in end-stage lung failure. Um, so I cough a lot. I can't breathe half the time. I struggle to keep up. I'm mainly tube fed as well because my digestive tract is in beginning stages of intestinal failure. Um, I am diabetic, fully insulin pump dependent. I take over 60 prescriptions a day. Um, I do four, they call them treatments, or Rosie calls them my wiggle wiggle vest. It's a vest that I put on and it literally shakes the crap out of me so I can cough the stuff up that's in my lungs. I do that 4 times a day for 30 minutes, which is like 2 hours out of my day. And so, but basically, I look okay on the outside. Most people can't tell that I'm sick. Um, I mean, you can see the scars and you can kind of tell like when I'm up doing things, I'm short of breath and I cough a lot. But most people just by looking at me cannot tell I'm sick. But if you flip me inside out, I'm dying. It's essentially, like kind of rotting from the inside out. Um, and most people see if they do develop diabetes because the mucus blocks up the pancreas. Um, but not all of them have the laundry list of issues that I have. Um, I guess I'm just the lucky one.
Clearly.
The lupus really threw us for a loop when I got that diagnosis, and the Ehlers-Danlos was not even something I'd been sent to I did some genetic testing, and that was not even what we were looking for. So to get that diagnosis, I was like, whoa, I don't even know what that means. And then I'm in the process of, we're waiting for one more test result, and I'll get the results for that in September, which is going to add yet another diagnosis. We're looking at two different ones. We just have to wait for a test to confirm which one it is. So it's been like a constant struggle of like new diagnoses, new issues. There's not really an organ in my body that's not affected at this point. So it's intense.
Yeah, I can tell. So with all that stuff going on, and I mean, I don't even really know how one would deal with that. The fact that you do, I've told you multiple times, you're a fucking damn warrior. Uh, that, and you shouldn't have to be for someone your age. Does it bother you? Like, I mean, obviously, it's kind of it bothers you, but like on a deeper level, does it just piss you off that you've got all this stuff going on and you haven't had a real chance to have like with for a lack of a better term here, a normal life? This is all you've
Yes.
known, right? So like
Yeah.
seeing everybody, like you rather be like on TV or on the internet or just like literally right in front of you, be able to have a life. How much does it get to you that all like this is basically just getting in the way?
A lot. I would say daily. Um, and I do my best to not be bitter about it, but it's really hard. Um, I see, you know, my peers that I grew up with moving on, and they have good jobs and they're creating families and they're getting married, and I'm still stuck in the same position that I was in school. Um, I never even got to graduate high school because I got too sick. There was so many things that I had planned with my life that I didn't get to do because I got sicker. I've always been sick, but there was a point in my life where I was able to somewhat kind of be a little bit more normal. But I would say for the last probably going on 10 years now, I mean, it's my life is consumed with being sick. Um, and it definitely also makes me bitter towards some people who waste their life away. Um, I've seen people people who are somewhat in the same shoes as me. So, for instance, I was evaluated for a lung transplant not too long ago in February of 2023, I think. It's hard to remember, so much has happened. And I was denied because my case is severely complex. Um, and then I see people out there who get these miracles and then they waste them. And I would do literally anything to have that miracle. Um, and there's also this level of like fear, like you know, oh my gosh, I see this thing, I want to do it, I think I could. And then I get so scared to actually do it because there's been so many times where I've tried to do something and it just hasn't worked. Or it's ended up hurting me more than it was worth. And don't get me wrong, like there is things that I have done while being incredibly ill that are mind-boggling that I probably shouldn't have done, but I did it anyways. Um, I was I do my best to not push myself to the point of like I'm on the brink of death, but to sometimes be like, you know what? I have to live. I cannot miss another thing because I'm sick. Um, Several years ago, my cousin got married, and I was in the wedding, and I got so sick before her wedding, and I was so upset. I had a partially collapsed lung. I had pneumonia. I was having high fevers. and they wanted to admit me to the hospital, and they were like, we really don't advise that you go home, you know. And I told them no. I was like, no, no, I'll come in after the wedding, but I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be in the wedding. And with a partially collapsed lung, I was in the wedding and I rocked my ass off and we danced on the dance floor and it was so much fun. Did it kick my ass? Yes. Did I end up in the hospital the next day? Yes. But it was worth it. Um, but there's also times where I don't. You know, my grandfather passed away, and I did my best to be at his funeral, and I was super sick, very sick. That was one of the worst hospital stays I had ever had. And I didn't get to go to his burial because in the middle of his funeral, I spiked 105 fever and I was unable to walk. I got super, super sick and I missed his burial. And that is something that still eats away at me because it felt like I had that last chance of like seeing him ripped away from my illness. I ended up in the hospital the very next day, and that was one of the worst hospital stays that I've ever had. Not only because I was so sick, I was septic, and like half the stay I don't even remember because of how sick I was. But I also had this, you know, my grandfather had just died, so I had that like emotional and mental aspect along with being really sick. Um, and that's, you know, not the first time something like that's happened. I tried to take a vacation to New Mexico and I went and I got sick in the middle of it. And I came home and I had to go to the ER that night because I had 105 fever again and they were trying to get me back into the house and I was throwing up in the driveway because I was so sick. Like it was terrible. Um, so there's been so many times where I am completely and utterly devastated and I feel like my whole world is falling apart. You know, I was denied my transplant, and this is why I'm so thankful to have found Rosie and to have found everybody on TikTok because that was right after I was denied my transplant is when I really started opening up on TikTok and meeting people, and I started talking to Rosie. And I truly believe that without if I didn't find her, um, I was done. I had made up my mind that I was done. I got denied, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no point. I don't even get, you know, because I had no inkling that they'd be like, oh yeah, no, you weren't going to get a transplant. It didn't even cross my mind. Um, I knew that they could come to me and be like, this just isn't going to happen right now. But they flat out were like, no, you can never have a transplant here. And it felt like a death sentence, like 100%. And I felt like I have worked so fucking hard, excuse me,
No, that's fine. We
so
cuss on the
hard
show.
for so long for nothing, for you to tell me I can't even get a transplant, which is what CF usually ends in. It ends in a transplant. But because I had all these other diagnoses that they don't typically see with CF, they were like, we don't even want to try. And I was done. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to like. I was simply going to just let it, you know, let nature take its course, however fast it was going to happen. And then I met Rosie, and she, to be honest, I did not want to talk to her at first because I was like, this is weird. This is just some random girl texting me or messaging me on TikTok. I don't know anything about her. But I was also so desperate to find somebody who understood. Um, because it's hard, and there's no person who can 100% understand what you're going through, especially when you go through something so catastrophic, like it's so big. Um, but like I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't talk to the friends I had in my life because they were already so emotionally attached to the situation that anytime I talked to anybody, they just ended up crying. And it felt so exhausting. Like, you know what? I should be the one crying here. Like, I need the help. Y'all are not helping me by sitting here and crying. Um, and I was so fucking bitter about it all. You know, it's hard to not be in there. I still have my days, you know, yesterday was hard and I, it, it sucks. And especially like, I see my siblings. None of them are sick. I'm the only one who's sick. I'm the only one really in the family who is sick. Um, and that is like so exhausting because it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I got everybody else's diagnosis. Like, we're not going to make the rest of your family sick, but we're going to give it all to you. Which is like, I've always told people, because like CF is genetic. So it's pretty rare for only one sibling to have CF. Um, Now, I would never, ever, ever wish CF on any of my siblings. I would much rather it be me than them. But that doesn't mean it doesn't suck. And that doesn't mean that I don't have days where I'm just pissed off. Um, and my family does pretty good about knowing when I'm having an off day. And it used to be like I turned into just a terrible, terrible person.
Emily, hold on a second.
Okay.
I think issue with the recording. Okay. It stopped recording for some reason.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're back.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, I used to get I was just super crabby and like I'd lash out at everybody when I was having a bad day or feeling discouraged or defeated and now I just get really quiet because my intention is not to hurt people. That used to be what my intention was. Like I'm hurting, I want everybody else to hurt. And that is thankfully something that I've grown out of. But it's not hard to tell when I'm having a bad day because I'm just quiet. I just kind of shut off from the world. I become a little more sensitive. I just kind of act like I don't care. Um, and a lot of that has to do with I'm just so stuck in my own head that I can't focus energy on anything else but my thoughts. Um, and there's really no way to understand or to grasp the depth of my illness. Like I know my reality, but understanding it is a whole nother thing. Like I know what will happen. I know how this disease works, all of them, but why is the question I ask a lot. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? How am I, so many people were like, "Oh, you're such an inspiration," and I don't feel like that. Um, I'm like, no, I'm just sick. Like I don't have a choice. Like I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're so strong," and I appreciate that, and I know what they're doing, and I know that they're trying to give me a compliment. I know that they're trying to remind me, like, you can do this, but I hate it. I hate being told I'm strong because no, I wasn't given the choice. Like this just is what it is. I don't have a choice. People say, "How do you do it?" I don't have a choice. If I don't do it, I don't live. Um, the bitterness is always there, shape or form. I'm doing my best now to try and because for so long I did live in my disease, like that's all I was, and I'm trying now to not just be my illness, but it's very hard.
So, because of all of these things that you've had to struggle to even try to do, and all these things that you kind of missed, um, ha, have you had even a chance to even have much of a or any of a like a romantic or a personal life?
Um, I no, I don't have a huge personal life. Like I was in a 3-year relationship, actually, right out of high school, or end of high school to out of high school. I was in a 3-year relationship, and it was not. I don't even really classify it as a relationship anymore because it was very. I think I was in this relationship just to say I was in a relationship. I was in this relationship for 3 years, and I spent 90% of my time in the hospital. I mean, since everybody has known me, Rosie and all of them, I've been in the hospital dozens of times already. So you can imagine in a 3-year time span, I spend a lot of time in a hospital. And my partner at the time came and saw me in the hospital 3 times in 3 years. So like I think it was more just like we labeled each other as like boyfriend and girlfriend, but we were not really like, it just wasn't a good relationship. And he wasn't ever rude or abusive, or we were just very disconnected. I think we were way too different as people, and what I needed from him, he couldn't give me, and what he needed from me, I couldn't give him. So it never really got serious, and never really did anything. It just kind of doled out, and we were together, but not, together, I guess. And then we had a really big event happen in our lives. My stepdad, who had been abusing us, left. It like blew up into this huge thing, and he left, and it turned into this really scary, scary situation. And during that time, me and him amicably split. I told him, I was like, this isn't working for me. I'm not getting what I want from the relationship. I know you're not getting what you want from the relationship. And he's actually my brother's best friend, which might sound really weird. But I think that's kind of why we started dating, because he was around all the time and he was funny, and I have a really close relationship with my brother. And so I think it's just kind of, but we split. I still see him on a regular basis. He still comes over and hangs out with my brother. Like, we're still friends. I just don't think we were meant to be like a couple. But outside of that, no, I don't have a social life. I've never been in another relationship. I've never even tried, just because when I have, it never ends well. There, shortly, like right after that relationship ended, I did a little bit of like, trying to date, trying to meet people, and people were scared of me, which sounds kind of like, what do you mean? I had one person that was like, and this is a problem that I have. I don't know how upfront I need to be, because the reality of my illness is big, especially for people my age. Like, it's a lot to put yourself into. And so a lot of times I think I'm too upfront about it, and I'm too honest, like, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, I'm like dying. And then people are like, oh my gosh, no, thank you. Some people are not so nice about it. I literally had one guy who was like, oh, well, I don't want to get like attached to you if you're just gonna die or whatever. I was like, okay, glad
I
I
mean, you can
missed that.
die at any moment of the day, but
Right.
okay.
So I would say the last like year and a half, it's just not something that I really focused on having a relationship. And up until meeting Rosie and everybody and all of you guys, I didn't have any friends either. Um, I never had friends in school because I missed so much school. And then when I was in school, I was so different and weird to everybody, and I never connected with my peers. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I had to grow up so quickly.
Hmm.
Um, so I didn't have friends. I stay at home. I don't go out. I don't do anything. When I go out, it's to the hospital or to a doctor's appointment, or um, like, I'm 24 and I've like never been in a bar. I've never been to like a club. I've never gone to a party. Like, and I'm not necessarily saying like you have to do all those things, but
Oh
it's just
no.
the principle of like, I've done none of it. I've traveled a little bit here and there, but not a lot, because it's so hard to travel with the thousands of medications that I have. Um, and it's so hard to be away because, like, I get so nervous being away from the hospital. Like, what if something happens? My doctors are here. And CF is also not something that every hospital can treat. So there are certain centers that have CF centers, but I can't just go to any hospital and them know what to do with me, because they'll be like, we don't see CF patients. We have no idea what to do with you. And because CF is so complex, they wouldn't even touch me. So I'm very also worried about, like, if I go somewhere, I'm going to research, like, do they have a CF center? Where do I go? Like, what do I do if something happens? Um, it's made it incredibly difficult to have any kind of life. Um, and it sucks. And I do my best to try and like, because there's so many times where they're like, "Oh, you want to do this thing?" And I'm like, "No," because I'm afraid to. And I even, I've never had a job. Um, I've been on disability since the moment I turned 18. I nannied for a couple years for a friend who, and they would just like pay me in cash or whatever. And I loved that because it gave me something to do, outside of my illness. And then, and I loved it. I love kids. I actually wanted to become a special needs elementary school teacher before I had to drop out. Um, and so I loved nannying. And then my health got to a point where I couldn't physically keep up with a child anymore. I can't even keep up with most adults. I just get depleted so easily. Um, so that was really hard when I had to step away from that. Um, and it just, and I go through moments because it's like, okay, well, there's another thing that my illness ripped away from me. Um, and it gets hard. And even since Rosie has met me, I think there's been so many times where like I'll message her and be like, I'm done. Like I can't do this. I don't want to do it. And before, I didn't have anybody to message that to. So it's been a huge blessing that I have somebody now to be like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of this funk. I don't know how to get out of bed. I don't know how to not be angry. Um, and even if she can't, nobody can fix it. Nobody can be like, oh, you're fine. Like, you'll get better because nobody knows. But to even just have somebody to talk to about it has been so helpful. Um, it's I mean, there's so many words I can put to the frustration and the anger and the things that I've missed out on because of my illness, but we'd be here for hours.
Um, so I mean, obviously, I mean, I all the frustration and just anger and stuff like that you have for what you go through and what you basically missed out on or had to kind of sacrifice in order to, well, live. So, do you do anything to keep your mind, to keep your, well, I guess I can say this from one person that visited a nut hut to another. Your sanity. How do you keep your sanity in all of this just fucking chaos?
Um, to be honest, there are days where I don't have any sanity. I'm losing my mind some days. Um, but sometimes I have to allow myself to just feel a little crazy for a little bit or just be like, what the fuck? But when you spend hours and hours and hours and weeks, sometimes months in a hospital, it's so boring and it's so exhausting. And like people are always like, well, where's your family? Why don't you have any visitors? Why don't you? And it's like, okay, well, when you spend this much time, it's one thing to have an acute issue for a normal person and end up in the hospital. They're going to have tons of visitors because they're never in the hospital. But when it's something that's so regular, people have lives. Like they can't stop every single time I'm in the hospital to come sit with me because I'm there so much for so long. Um, Now, don't get me wrong, there are people that I've had to cut out of my life because I've realized that you say you support me, but you never even check up on me. You never call me or you never come visit me in the hospital. And that does bother me, or at least call me, and check up. So to fill all of that, especially during COVID, hospital stays were torture because I couldn't have any visitors. I wasn't allowed. Um, and even as a child, I spent so much time by myself in hospitals. Um, because my mom had to work. She had kids to support. So I developed probably 1,000 different hobbies. Um, I play multiple different instruments. Uh, I paint, I color, I write, I sing, I write music. I crochet. I mean, if anybody's done it, I've probably done it. And I go through phases like, I was really big into painting for a really long time and I had thousands of canvases everywhere all the time. And then I was kind of like, okay, I'm bored with that. So I jumped back into my crocheting and I was doing hats and stuff. And my newest thing now is I crochet stuffed animals and people love them. Um, and it's almost become like a little bit of a business for me, which has been really nice. I use like all the money that I get from selling my items to live my life. Because after I was denied transplant, I was like, you know what? Like, I have to live my life a little bit here. Like, I can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again because it's gonna burn me out and I'm gonna lose my mind. Um, so I make these stuffed animals and I love doing it. And then, I get profit from it, and that goes towards like taking a little trip or going to a concert or even just, treating myself to a or a mani pedi or like whatever. Um, but yeah, I've developed so many different hobbies trying to fill my time and not lose my mind. Um, and it's funny because so many people in my life will actually be like, they're like, you're so annoying. Like you, I know Rosie said it to me a couple times. Like, what can't you do? Because it's true. Like I've taken when you have so much time to like work on something, you can become really good at it. And I think that's just kind of what I've done. Where it's like I'm also really stubborn. So like when I started my crocheting with the stuffed animals, ugh, it drove me crazy. I couldn't figure it out. It took me forever. I was getting so frustrated, but I refused to give up. And then it just got to a point where I was like, well, that doesn't look good. I can do better than that. And so I just kept redoing the same thing over and over and over and over because I had time to do it because I was sitting in a hospital by myself um, until it was perfect, which also has to do with some mental health things. I have OCD really bad, so that's not always a good thing when I'm sitting there like hyper fixated on something because I lose my mind a little bit. But I mean, yeah, if anybody's like, oh, this is my hobby, it's probably been my hobby at one point or another.
So essentially, it sounds like a majority of your time is being an 84-year-old woman.
Yes, yes. I tell
Nothing
people
wrong
all
with
the
it.
time, I'm the least 24-year-old 24-year-old you'll ever meet. Like I
That's
don't act
fair.
like a 24-year-old.
That's fair. So now the hard-hitting question is, how much of your time is in your pajamas?
Oh, like almost 100% of the time. Yeah. Yeah, real clothes
That's
don't
fair.
exist in my world really ever. I'll throw on like a pair of jean shorts or a pair of jeans, if I'm gonna go out and like go to the store or something, but otherwise I'm pretty much in my pajamas. And like in the hospital, even when I'm in the hospital, you're not gonna see me in a hospital gown ever. I despise them. I hate them so much. And they make me put them on for like procedures and stuff. But thankfully, since I'm there for like such a long period of time and I'm a regular, I'm allowed to like bring my own clothes and wear my own clothes, which is really nice. It's funny because like I'll have a procedure where they'll make me put a gown on, and the moment I am awake, I'm looking at my mom like, "Give me my clothes. I want this gown off of me," and I will be still drugged and taking this gown off and putting my regular clothes on because I just hate them so much.
I mean, you spend so much time in one whenever you're younger. Yeah, you're gonna be all sorts of like, nah, I don't want it. Nah, I don't want
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So you mentioned like the TikTok and meeting Rosie and a lot of the same people that I know. That's actually literally how I met you. Um, and how much because you also mentioned not being able to really have the chance to really have friends in school or much less in a sense real like your own bubble, like your
hmm
personal real life bubble. How much has TikTok meant to you?
I it's almost hard to put into words. And a lot of people in like my, my family, I don't think they quite understand. Like the people who live with me have seen it, but like my extended family, they don't quite understand like why I'm so like obsessed with it, and I'm so like excited to, spend a week in Ohio. They're like, it's Ohio, what are you doing? Um, and it's like I, so for me, when I came onto TikTok, I had no intention of starting a page, making friends, nothing. And if you even go back and you look at when I first started, like really posting videos, my content is completely different. Like I was so dark and so depressed and so upset at the time. Um, and I actually found Rosie found me through somebody else. And apparently she had started following me and had like commented on one of my videos. And apparently I ignored her, which I did not know that.
Hmm.
She was telling me about this the other day. I was like, I did? She was like, yeah. And so she unfollowed me because she thought maybe I thought she was like creepy or whatever. But then I was in this person's live and she was in the comments and we kind of started talking back and forth. And so she refollowed me and we kind of started talking that way. And to be honest, it happened so fast that it was like, what just happened? Um, Come to find out, I am literally just the younger version of Rosie. Like it's almost creepy at times. Um, and it was really helpful for me to find somebody like me, for one, because she knows how my brain works so well. It's crazy. But I was so hesitant to like talk to her, to talk to anybody, to like do anything online because I don't have good trust with people. Like I struggle to trust. And a lot of that has to do with trauma from medical professionals and personal people in my life, and so I don't trust people. I don't let them in. And for some reason, something in me was just like, just talk to her. Like, what's left to lose? Because, like I said, I was just denied from a transplant. So I was like, not like life can get any worse. Like, just go for it, you know. And we kind of started talking back and forth. And she told me one night, she was like, why don't you come hang out one of our lives or whatever? And so I did. And I think for the first couple ones, I was just kind of in the comments um, and I'm not gonna lie, everybody was kind of scary at first. I was like, these people are crazy.
They are. They
Um,
are. They are. They are
yeah.
insane.
And then me and Rosie we grew really close, really fast. Um, and then it was just like she brought me up into the live one night, and just it took off from there. Everybody opened their arms, took me under their wing, and just for the first time in my life, like I had people that I actually trusted. Like I did not feel like they were lying to me. And I still struggle with this where people tell me things and I don't believe them. They'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to be here for you. I love you." Things like that. And I don't believe them. You're lying. No, you won't. But I believed every word that they said. Um, and Rosie very quickly, she started checking up on me when I was in the hospital and we started talking about things. And I don't really think that anything happens now where she's not the first person I tell. And I tell her all the time, like, you guys saved my life. Like, if I wouldn't have found you guys at the time I did, I would no longer be here. And I mean that 100%. Um, and my mother has really noticed it. Like, I, when I would get into my episodes of like being really depressed and being really upset and being really discouraged, I would stay there for days at a time, weeks, sometimes months. And now it's like, I maybe a day or even a couple hours where I'm upset because I finally have somebody, more than one person that I can go to and I can talk to and be like, I'm just struggling. Like this shit just sucks. And while Rosie can't fix it and can't make it better, she listens. And she reminds me that like that she's here and if I need anything. And so does Kimmy, and so does Miss Neil and Jamie, and just everybody is so supportive. And it it uh it often makes me really emotional because it's overwhelming, the feelings and the love that I have for these people that I've never even met in person, which is another thing that's really weird for me. Like, I never saw myself having any kind of long distance friendship, like online friendship, because I just didn't feel like I was that kind of person. I need that like human contact.
Hmm.
Um, but it has not been an issue for me and speaking with them, because even though they're so far away, they still feel so close. And I've been helping with the fundraising and all of that, and I was a little stressed. I wanted to go to Ohio to be there for the walk, and I was so stressed that I wasn't going to be having because like I live on such a fixed income, being on disability, and I haven't been able to crochet as much as I used to because I've been so sick the last several months. Um, and they all came together and helped make it happen. Um, and I've never had people in my life do something like that. Um, I really can't express how much they mean to me and how much I love them and how much they have changed my life. Like, I've had multiple people comment on like when I talk about them, I just instantly light up. Like, they fill me with so much joy that I didn't have before. Um, they've given me so many more reasons to fight, which you need. Sometimes the reasons that you have get to a point where it's not enough. Um, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just how things work, the universe, God, I don't know. But things happen for a reason. And I found them and they found me at the perfect time. And it's like having a whole separate family. And I really cannot express how grateful I am for all of them and how much it's changed my life and helped me.
So, with all the stuff that you got to deal with, um, and the depression, the pain, the anger, the frustration, like all of it, the big chaotic ball of just the fuck. What does Emily appreciate the most about life?
Hmm. Um, I'm a very simple person. I don't need big, grand gestures. I don't need, like huge vacations and things like that. I am very much, that's one thing that my illness has blessed me with is being able to appreciate the small things. Um, and I would think that the most beautiful part of life for me is laughter. I have always been a person that I like to make other people laugh. Um, and I stopped doing that for a really long time. I stopped making people laugh. And only recently has everybody brought that back out in me, where I'm like trying to make people laugh and I'm trying to laugh myself, and truly just be happy. But I think like just being around people and laughing with them and seeing them smile and um, I'm simple. Like I don't need anything big. I don't need anything extravagant. Like we're gonna make this happen, and I'm gonna go to Ohio, and I don't even care if all we do is sit on the couch and sit there in silence. Like just like to be with the people that I care about. And I like to laugh and I like to make memories, not even doing big things, just doing stupid little things like, um, I don't know, like some of my most favorite memories and are, family dinners where we just sit at the table or, stupid things that happen and we laugh. Like, I just like the little things. I just want to be happy. I want to have joy. I want to laugh. Um, that is the most important thing to me. Is and I used to say this all the time. That I know that I'm not going to grow old, and that's the reality of my illnesses, and that's okay. Um, but all I want to do is go out laughing. Like I just I want to finally be able to be like, I'm happy and I enjoyed my life and it was fun. And I know I didn't do huge things and, travel the world or whatever, but I laughed. That's what matters is that I laughed.
Well, that is laughter is very important, and it's not very often that I say this sentence out loud. But I mean, in a sense, like we're all dying. Just some people are ahead of the
Hmm.
game. Uh, and because you're a little farther ahead than some, you look back. What do you find the most trivial? I mean, because like let's face it, you know where all this is going. You know,
Hmm.
you know that it's constantly looming over you. And while most of us are so just either, let's face it, either so self-absorbed, whether it not be in a good way or a bad way, but like we don't really think about it that often uh, until like we, tell someone we know dies, or we're faced with our own mortality, or in this case, talking to somebody that it's literally like right on your shoulder. Death's door is like on your shoulder. So so like you have to wonder in that if you're in that case, you're that person. What's the trivial like? What is like a few things that other people just make a big deal out of that you think is just trivial?
There's a lot. Um, I think one of the biggest things that bothers me about people is a lot of people give themselves a timeline. And I did this, I was like, I'm gonna do this by this age, and I'm gonna do this by this age, and I'm gonna have this by this age, and this is what I'm gonna do with my life, and I put it in a box, and that's what was gonna happen. And you shouldn't do that. I very much believe you should live your life second by second because you just don't know. And also, there are so many things to be grateful for in life that you don't even realize. Um, like just recently, I had somebody complain to me about their job. Nobody likes to work. I get it. Well, in a sense, I get it. I've never had a job. Um, my job is staying alive.
That's kind of
But
an
what I would
important
do,
job.
yeah, but I would do anything to have a job, to work, a 9 to 5. Like, I'm not even kidding you. That might sound crazy, but like, there are so many things that people don't even think about on their day-to-day life that so many people don't have. The ability to shower. Like, when I'm in the hospital, I can't even shower right. I have to wrap half of my body in plastic because I have lines and tubes all over the place, and I can't even take a real shower. Or like sleeping through the night because I have 1,000 different nurses coming in. And it's like so many people spend so much time just being so angry about every little thing in life. And it's like, you are wasting your life being mad at stupid little things. When those things, and I get it, everybody's life is different and people don't see things the way that I see things just because of the cards that I was dealt. But a lot of things in life are trivial. Like, you know, why get angry about that? You know, oh, they messed up your Taco Bell order. Okay, they're they're humans. They mess things up just like you. Like, um, I have and this is part of the reason why I've had such a hard time connecting with people because there are so many times where people will come to me and they will complain. And this is the thing, people's issues are the biggest issues in the world because they're their issues. And I understand that, but I think so many people don't take the time to look at their life. And you can't fully do this. You can't step into somebody's shoes and really see life through somebody else's shoes because it's just not possible. But to do your best to try to do that is important because it puts your life in a completely different perspective. And even I do that. You know, I know that things could be worse. I could be sick and I could not have a roof over my head. I could have no family. I could have no insurance. I could, you know, like, so as hard as it is, being grateful for every little thing is so important. Like, oh, I woke up today. That's it. You woke up today. Good job. Like, but also like don't hold yourself to such a so many people are like, oh, I was supposed to do this and I was supposed to do that. I was supposed to be married by this age and have kids by this age and graduated by this age and working this job at this age. There is no, as much as society tries to tell you, there's no timeline for life. Everybody works at their own different pace. You know, I tried to graduate high school and I went for 3 extra years of high school. Okay. And I still didn't graduate. And I beat the crap out of myself for that all the time. I was so mad at myself. Like, what are you doing? You could do this. Like, you just don't work hard enough. You don't try hard enough. It's not that. It's that everybody works, everybody's timeline is different. I am not even close to where I thought I'd be, but that's fine. Like, I'm where I am, and I'm finding my happiness, and I'm working on myself in my own timeline, and I'll get there eventually. And if I don't, I wasn't meant to get there. People are way too fucking hard on themselves. And that's so dumb. And I literally just told Rosie this the other day. Have grace with yourself. Give yourself some grace. Because you're not perfect. You're not gonna do everything perfectly. You're not gonna make this timeline that you think you need to have. Because life is a bitch and it's gonna throw you all kinds of curveballs and it's gonna trip you and it's gonna and that's okay because that's life. I firmly believe that just taking your time and enjoying every little thing that you possibly can is the best way to live life. You can have a lot of fun doing nothing if you look at the small things and you appreciate the small things.
I love that. So, so normally this would be about the time where I say something incredibly sweet, something incredibly uplifting, and something very just positive. But that's not really something that I can do with you because we've already established you're not big on the you're a fighter thing. You're 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 a. But I will say this in all honesty because like we haven't really had much interaction. We haven't had much in the form of conversations because like whether it be hospital visits or work or for me or kids for me or it's whatever things get in the way. Um,
Yeah.
I've I've heard some of what you went through, whether it be through watching your TikToks or just listening in on some of the lives and stuff like that, uh, or just through some of our mutual friends. Um, I don't think I've ever met anyone that has just personified just beauty and chaos like you. Like there's literally like your yeah, I mean your your TikTok name alone, chaotically uh Emily is apropos because let's face it, life is very chaotic for you. Um and it can be dark and it can be depressing and frustrating and stuff like that. But what you just said about like what you said to Rosie is that like you handle it, and I'm sure not all the time, with the right amount of grace, the right amount of humor, whole shit ton of drugs. Um, um, TSA would probably have a field day with you. Uh, so,
Yeah, that'll be fun to experience when I fly to Ohio.
oh yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun for you. But
Uh-huh.
you handle all that with such, I mean, just so much um, grace. And I don't know if like anything that I could ever say um, this time because I'm sure I know at one point I have sent you a private message because
Hmm.
I send these messages not because like people expect them or because I think they need to hear them. I send them because I get this feeling that maybe something in the ramblings that I send is gonna stick. So, but
Hmm.
I don't think I could put into
I mean,
words just how amazing that you're doing in this chaotically dark, shark infested waters that you live.
and there's definitely like I'm doing my best to like show people the reality because I am not perfectly composed all the time. I don't always handle it with grace. Sometimes I'm a hot freaking mess. And I'm doing my best to be more open with my story because there are a lot of things that I have not talked about. Um, I mean, there's so many aspects to my story that are just insane, not even just health wise, but I have my health stuff I deal with, but then I have regular life bull crap. Um, and I'm doing my best to find a balance of like showing people like you can enjoy life and you can be happy and just live your life and laugh and live and love and all those things. But it's okay to have your days where you feel like you're a complete mess because life is not easy. There is bullshit that happens, and that's normal. Um, and it's sometimes people get a lot more bullshit than they should. Um, some people have deal with more than another person. And I don't want people to come to my page and be like, oh, well, she's so sick, but look, she's so perfect and she's so happy and she doesn't really have it that bad and she's enjoying life because I don't all the time. I really don't. I have a lot of hard, and that's why I'm trying to be a little bit more open about some of the aspects of my story because I want people, I think for me to be motivational and for me to inspire people, I need them to also see that I have struggles and that I've been through hard stuff, but that I am not the hard stuff, that I am me and I got through that stuff. And here I am on the other side of it. And those people need to see that you can get to the other side of it. And it might take you a long time and it might be a lot of work. And you're going to have days where it's it doesn't go well, but you can do it no matter how defeated you feel and how ugly life seems to look. Um, it's most almost 100% of the time it's worth the fight, um, even for the small little
It's very true. Um, so definitely, I'm gonna definitely have to have you back, because I had an idea
things.
that I had talked to Rosie about having, if I could figure out how to do this on this new uh, machine that I use for to get the show, to get you, to get Rosie, to get maybe one or two other people on here, and just have an open discussion, a little different than the lives. 'Cause the lives get a little insane, and the lives tend
Me
to
too.
go in so many different directions.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to rein everybody in on that. But I definitely want you to come back, because you said there's so much other things that you haven't talked about that I would very much love to
Oh yeah.
uh, uh, get from you. So, but thank you for coming on. It's been a very
Yeah.
intense and very amazing pleasure getting to know just a monocle of what you deal with. So, thank you.
Yes.
Um,
I enjoyed talking about it.
yes, well, I enjoyed hearing it. And while and to my listeners, thank you for joining us once again. You can again check us out on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or you can watch us on video on YouTube. So at In Your Head with Shannon is the YouTube channel. So check us out, subscribe, rate, share. Did I mention share? Not the singer. so, so thanks very much, Emily, and thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
listening.